Hello Sumates, you're welcome back to my channel once again, and I'm so excited to have you back on another tutorial. Okay, so today's tutorial will be on making bustier with yoke. Okay, so this is a bustier dress with basque waistline and yoke. So that is what we'll be learning today in this tutorial. So I urge you to stay to the end of it, watch carefully, so that at the end of it you'll be able to know how to draft those beautiful bustier dress. So to begin, I'm going to get my paper ready and go on and start drafting. Okay, so this is the paper I'll be working with, and I went on to measure my lines and label it. So I measure from my shoulder to my chest line, and from my shoulder to my bust point line, then from my shoulder to my under bust point line, also waistline, and I also set aside 5 inches for my basque waistline. Remember I mentioned earlier that it's going to be a bustier with basque waistline and yoke. So I proceeded to secure my paper on my table, and without wasting much time, I'm going to start imputing my measurements. Okay, so I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2, and I'm going to mark it on the shoulder line and on the chest line as well. And I'll get my ruler and I'm going to rule it into a straight line like this. And the next thing I'll be doing now is to slope my shoulder by 1 inch. Then after that, I will get my neck width of 3 inches. Then I'm going to connect to form my shoulder slope, as you can see. Then once I was done doing that, I am going to divide my bust circumference by 4 and impute it on this chest line here. Then I'm going to divide what I have here into 2, measure this line and divide the tape into 2 to get the midpoint. So here is the midpoint, and I will come in here by 0.5 inches. So I'm going to pick up my curve ruler and I'm going to connect this dots to form my front armhole curve. Okay, so you see the way I connected it. So this is the front armhole curve. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to get my dart. So I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Okay, so I marked it on the other bust line and on the length, that is the basque, and also on the bust point line. Okay, so I'm going to mark it on the bust point line before I proceed to connect. Okay, so I'll connect into a straight line like this, and after connecting, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to start imputing my dart. Okay, so on the side I'm going to measure 1.75, then on the center I'm going to measure 0.5 inches. Okay, so you can actually use 0.75 for the center, but I'm using 0.5 inches for the center and 1.75, okay, for the side. So I was done connecting it, and it's time to use my curve ruler to connect from the bust point down to the under bust line, as you've just seen me do. And I also connect this part as well. Okay, so I was done connecting it, as you can see, and the next thing I'm going to do is to divide this shoulder line here into 2. Okay, and get the midpoint. Okay, so after marking on the midpoint, I'm going to use my ruler now to connect the midpoint all the way down to the bust point line. Okay, the dart line on the bust point, I'm just going to connect it this way. Okay, so I was not connecting, as you can see, and the next thing I'm going to do is to come up from my bust point line by 4 inches. Okay, and I will mark. Okay, I'm just going to mark it this way, so you can see the way I mark it. So that is about 1.5 inches away from the chest line, and on the side I marked 0.75, on the center I marked 0.5 inches. Do you see it? So I proceeded to connect down to the bust point. Then I will do the same thing here as well. Can you see? So the next thing now that I'm going to be doing is to take this same dart to the shoulder line. So I marked that 0.75 and 0.5 respectively, and I proceeded to connect as well. Okay, so that is what I'm doing here, and I was not connecting, as you can see. So this will be serving as our overbust tightening. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to measure from the bust point here 3 inches upwards. From the bust point 3 inches upwards. Okay, that is about 0.75 below the line I marked above the chest line. Can you see? And it will be time to connect to form that bustier curve. Okay, the sweetheart curve or the sweetheart neckline. Okay, so I will connect the side. Okay, starting from the line. And the next thing I'm going to do, according to the style you can see on the thumbnail here, is that on the armhole line here, from this new line that I ruled, I'm going to go up 1 inch or 0.75. Okay, or yes, 1 inch or 0.75. So I actually went up 0.75. Okay, so this is totally optional. If you like, you can do this. If you don't, you can leave it. Okay, so I proceeded to connect, but on a second note, I decided to connect to the chest line instead of connecting on the 0.75 that I marked upwards. Okay, so I connected, and I also measured 0.5 inches above here. Okay, because I want the shape to be pronounced. Okay, I want the sweetheart neck to be pronounced, and that is why I went up further. Okay, by 0.5 inches. Can you see it? And I proceeded to reconnect, and the next thing I'm going to do is to reconnect this side as well. Okay, so this makes it very pronounced, and it makes it more finer. Yeah, so I was not connecting. As you can see, this is what I have. So I'm going to be coming down here by 1 inch, which is the difference between my front half length and my back half length. Okay, so that will form our side dart. I'll proceed to connect it back to the bust point line. Okay, to form our side dart. So if the difference between your front half length and the back is 1.5 inches, go ahead and come down here by 1.5 inches. So another thing I did is I replaced the dart that I have on my shoulder line. So I measured the dart, and it was about 1.25. Okay, so I replaced it here, which is 1.25, and I'm going to get my curve ruler, and I'm going to reconnect it down to the armhole curve. Okay, around the chest line. Okay, so this is it. So this is because the dart here, the shoulder dart is going out. We're going to cut it out. Okay, so I'm using about 5 inches, 3.5 inches, yes, for my neck depth. Okay, 3.5 inches. So I proceeded to mark it and connected it. Okay, so I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here. Okay, remember I've already marked it on the chest line here. So I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4 as well, then measure the dart I have here and replace it. Then I will come up here again and measure what I have here, the dart here, and it's about 0.5 inches, and I replaced it as well. So I'll also measure my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll mark it, then measure the dart again and replace it accordingly. Okay, then I'm going to connect this way with my free hand. So you can actually connect with your free hand or with your ruler. Okay, so here now I'll be imputing my hip circumference divided by 4. That is what I'll mark here. Then I'll measure the dart again. I'll replace it. So it's very important to replace the dart, because we are going to be cutting it out. So if you don't replace it, you'll have shortage. Do you understand? So I also shaded all the parts that we are going to be cutting out. So all these parts that I'm shading are the parts that are going away. Okay, so now before I cut, I am going to measure from this bust point to where we have our sweetheart curve here, and measure here as well to ensure that I have the same thing, because sometimes you find out that after joining, one becomes longer than one. It is because of this. So after measuring, I found out that one side is 0.25 longer than the other side. So that is the reason for this reconnection I did, and I want to measure it again. So I have 4.75 here. So let me measure this other side. Yes, okay, so I have the same 4.75 now. So it's very important to do that to avoid shortage, and it will be time to cut out. So before I cut out, I'm going to close my side dart, and I'm going to do that by slitting through the waist dart so as to be able to close my side dart. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So I was done doing that, and there was a need to reconnect, so I decided to reconnect the line. Can you see it? Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is to proceed to cut out. Okay, and once I was done cutting out, it will be time to cut out the back part. So I was done cutting out, and this is what we have. Okay, so can you see it? So the next thing I'm going to do is to remove the darts on the yoke. Okay, remember I said we are going to remove it, and hence the reason for replacing it here. So I'm going to tape it down, okay, so that it becomes one, the yoke becomes one after taping it down. So this is what we'll have at the end of the day. Okay, so here I don't want this place to be pointed this way, so as a result of that, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches here, and I'll just reconnect this way, okay, to avoid that pointed edge around there, and I'll cut out. Okay, so I went on to tape my yoke. I joined it to become one like I mentioned, and this is what you should do as well. Okay, so this is what we have, and I'm going to cut it on my main fabric, but before then it will be time to cut out the back part. Okay, so I'm going to get my fabric ready, and this is the fabric I'll be working with. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to mark my zipper allowance. Okay, so I'm cutting the back part on my main fabric. Okay, so I'll proceed to marking my zipper allowance. I'm using about 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance, and that is what I set aside, and I'm also marking 1 inch here. Okay, so I'm going to set aside 1 inch there again. Okay, so I was done marking the 1 inch, as you can see, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my back waist measurement. Okay, so I'm going to mark my waist measurement for the back, and this includes the waist measurement and allowance as well, and I'm going to rule it. So here I'm ruling now is going to serve as our shoulder line, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark from my shoulder to my chest, then from my shoulder to my bust point, and I'm going to rule into a straight line. Okay, I'll proceed to connect it like this, just the same way we did for the front part. Okay, so after connecting, I will also label the line so that we don't get confused. All right, so I'll label here as shoulder line, here as chest line, bust point, then here is the waist line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to start imputing our measurements right away. Okay, so I'm going to measure my shoulder divided by 2, and I'll mark it on the shoulder line and on the chest line as well. Okay, so after which I'll proceed to connect into a straight line, okay, to form our armhole line for the back. And I was done doing that, and I'll slope my shoulder by 1 inch. Then I will get my neck depth of 3 inches. then my neck width of 3 inches and my neck depth of 2 inches. Okay, take note of that. Then I'll connect my shoulder slope like this. Okay, so I was done doing that, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure what I have remaining here and divide my tape into 2. Then I'll get the midpoint, then measure my bust circumference divided by 4, mark it on this chest line. Then I'll also pick up my curve ruler and connect to form our back armhole curve. Okay, so I was done doing that, and the next thing I'm going to do now is to get my dart. So I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. I'll mark it on the waistline, on the bust point line, and on the chest line. Okay, then on both line I will come in and out by 0.5 inches on both line, and I will connect this way. And after connecting, it will be time to start marking our other measurements. Okay, so I proceeded to mark. I didn't know at this point that my camera was not recording. Okay, so I'm going to explain everything I did here. Okay, so remember the neck depth that I marked earlier, which is 2.2 inches, and my neck width, which is 3 inches. So from the neck depth of 2 inches, I came down by another 2 inches. Okay, and I used my curve ruler like this. Okay, and connected down. Okay, so this was what I did. So what I measured on the chest line for this connection was 3 inches. Okay, 3 inches what I measured here for this connection, and I proceeded to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here and added my allowance because I'm cutting on my main fabric. Remember, like the drafting is on my main fabric, so they need to add allowance. And I measured my waist circumference divided by 4, and I measured this dart. Okay, and replaced it. Okay, which is 1 inch, and I also added my 2 inches sewing allowance. Okay, so the next thing that I did was that I also came in here by 0.75 to eliminate the zipper bulge at the waist side of the zipper allowance, and after which I replaced about 1/2 inch on the side. So that was all that I did. So it's time to cut out. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut out, and after cutting out, it will be time to cut out the front of my main fabric, cut my lining piece, and add my stay to it, and I'll show you what we have. Okay, so if you have watched up to this point and you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please waste no time, go ahead and click on the subscribe button, like this video. You can also drop a comment for us, and we appreciate that. So I proceeded to cut my lining piece and added my stay to my fabric. Okay, to the back part, and I proceeded to also cut out the front part on my main fabric, and I added 0.5 inches here, cut out, unfold, and cut out my lining piece as well, and also added my stay and my warden to it. Okay, so that is what I did. And on the side of my front side, added 0.5 inches here, added 2 inches here, and also added 1 inch around here. Okay, I also added my stay and my warden to it. Okay, so my yoke I also cut out on my main fabric and cut out my lining piece, and that is it. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. The next thing I'm going to do is to start joining, and I believe we all know how to join. Okay, so this is the end of the tutorial. I really appreciate the fact that you came around. Okay, so see you next time when I drop another tutorial. Bye.